It was a cold, quiet night in January. The kind of night where the wind whispers through the trees and every sound seems louder than usual. Sarah, a single mother, had just settled down for the evening. Her kids were already tucked in bed, and the house had finally fallen silent after a long day. She curled up on the couch with a warm blanket, flipping through channels on TV, half asleep, when she heard it. A knock at the front door. She glanced at the clock. 11:45 p.m. Who could be knocking this late? She thought. Her neighborhood was quiet, safe even, and it was rare for anyone to show up unannounced, especially at this hour. At first she thought about ignoring it, assuming it must have been the wind. But then she heard it again. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Heart racing, she slowly got up from the couch and crept toward the door. Peeking through the peephole, she expected to see a delivery driver, maybe even a neighbor with some kind of emergency. But instead she saw 2 figures, kids, 2 children, standing side by side on her porch. Her heart immediately softened. They couldn't have been more than 10 or 11 years old. A boy and a girl. The boy wore a simple gray hoodie, and the girl had long dark hair that hung over her face. But something about them felt off. She unlocked the door, just enough to open it a crack. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice shaking a little. The boy stepped forward, his head slightly bowed, his voice monotonous. "Ma'am, can we come inside? We need to use your phone." Sarah paused. It was late, and her motherly instincts told her something wasn't right. "Where are your parents? Are you lost?" she asked, trying to be calm. "We're cold," the boy said, ignoring her question. "Please let us in. We need to use your phone." She could feel a deep, primal fear building in the pit of her stomach. Why would these kids be out so late, all alone? And why weren't they making eye contact? Every alarm bell in her head was ringing, telling her to close the door, lock it, and walk away. But she didn't. She was a mother herself, and the thought of leaving 2 kids out in the cold weighed heavily on her. Still, she needed answers. "I'm sorry," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, "but I can't let you in. If you're lost, I can call the police to help you." The girl, who had been silent up until now, finally looked up. "We don't want the police," she said flatly. And that's when Sarah saw it. The girl's eyes. They were completely black, not just the pupils, the entire eye, like 2 empty voids staring back at her. The boy lifted his head, revealing the same soulless black eyes, the kind of eyes that felt as if they could swallow her whole. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. An overwhelming sense of dread washed over her, stronger than anything she had ever felt before. She stumbled back, her mind racing. "This isn't real. It can't be real." "We can't come in unless you invite us," the boy said again, his voice cold and robotic. Sarah slammed the door shut, heart pounding in her chest. Her hands shook as she fumbled with the lock, her body moving on autopilot. She pressed her back against the door, breathing heavily, trying to steady herself. Outside, the knocking resumed. This time, more urgent, more forceful. "Let us in, ma'am." The boy's voice came through the door. "We're cold. We won't hurt you." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Go away," she screamed, pressing her hands over her ears. But the knocking didn't stop. She stumbled back to the living room, grabbing her phone from the coffee table. With trembling fingers, she dialed 911. It rang once, twice. Finally, a voice answered. 911, what's your emergency?" There are kids at my door," she stammered. "They're trying to get in. Something's wrong with them." "Ma'am, stay calm. Are they threatening you?" "I don't know what they are." she whispered, her eyes darting toward the front door. Their eyes, they're black, all black. Please, send someone. As she spoke, the knocking suddenly stopped. The silence was deafening. Sarah's heart raced as she stood frozen in place, waiting, listening. "Ma'am, are they still there?" the operator asked. Sarah crept slowly back to the door, her phone still pressed to her ear. She held her breath as she peeked through the peephole again. The porch was empty. "They're gone," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Officers are on their way. Please stay inside," the operator instructed. Sarah locked every door and window, waiting for the police to arrive. The minutes felt like hours, but eventually, 2 officers knocked on her door. After a thorough search of the property, they found no trace of the children, no footprints in the snow, no sign they had ever been there. The officers assured her it was likely some prank, maybe teenagers messing around. But Sarah knew better. Those eyes, those void-like black eyes, were not something anyone could fake. For weeks after the incident, she couldn't shake the feeling that they would come back. Every night she double-checked her locks, leaving no window open. She even considered moving, but deep down, she knew it wouldn't matter. Because the black-eyed children don't need to find you twice. Once you've seen them, it's only a matter of time before they come back. And next time, you might not be so lucky.